Hi, I'm Nathan. Growing up, I always believed in the power of family. My parents, Evelyn and George, were my rock, and my cousin Sabrina was like a sister to me. We had countless memories together, from childhood games in the backyard to holiday celebrations. I never imagined those bonds could be broken until the day everything changed. It happened during one of our usual family gatherings, a lively event filled with laughter that echoed through the house. Sabrina and I were in the kitchen, helping set up for dinner. We were talking about her recent job application and how insecure she felt about it. "You're underestimating yourself, Sabrina. You've got all the skills they're looking for," I reassured her. "But what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" Her voice wavered with anxiety. "Just go in there and show them what you're made of. You're tougher than you think," I said, handing her a plate of sandwiches for the dining table, trying to lighten the mood with a smile. Without warning, she snapped, "Easy for you to say, Nathan. Everything always comes easy to you." I was caught off guard. "That's not fair, Sabrina. I've worked hard for everything I have. I don't understand why you're turning this into an attack." The conversation spiraled quickly. Sabrina's words became more personal, more cutting. She accused me of being selfish, of not understanding her struggles. Before I could process what was happening, she stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me standing there, confused and frustrated. Later that evening, as everyone gathered in the living room, Sabrina returned. Her eyes were red, her face dark with emotion. Without warning, she turned to my parents and said, "I need to tell you something about Nathan. He'd assaulted me." The room went dead silent. Her words hit me like a punch. "What? Sabrina, that's a lie. Why are you saying this?" I pleaded, but no one seemed to hear me. My parents looked at me in shock and horror, not even asking for my side. Evelyn, my mother, stepped forward, her voice cold. "We can't believe you would do this, Nathan. After everything we've done for you." "Mom, you know me. I would never." "Enough," my father, George, interrupted, raising his hand to silence me. "We don't tolerate this kind of behavior. You need to leave, Nathan." "But Dad, I didn't." "No buts. Get out of our house." His tone left no room for argument. Just like that, my family turned on me, believing Sabrina's lie without question. I packed a few belongings in a daze, the reality of what was happening not fully sinking in. The family I had loved and trusted had disowned me in a matter of minutes. As I stepped outside into the cold night, the door slammed behind me. I was alone, my world shattered, all because of Sabrina's words. The full weight of my situation didn't hit me until the next morning, when I woke up on a park bench, shivering in the cold. I had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. My family had shut their doors on me, leaving me with nothing but anger and despair. For the first few days, I wandered the streets aimlessly, spending days in public libraries for warmth and nights in 24-hour cafes, nursing the cheapest cup of coffee I could afford. Public restrooms became my refuge, allowing me to maintain some level of hygiene as I began searching for any kind of work. One chilly morning, a gruff voice broke my thoughts. "Got any experience with landscaping?" I was standing outside a hardware store where a small landscaping business had put up a hiring sign. "No, but I'm a quick learner and I work hard," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. The man, who introduced himself as Mike, eyed me skeptically. After a moment, he nodded. "All right, show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't be late." That small nod of approval was the first break I'd caught in days. Working with Mike was tough but rewarding. He was a fair boss, but didn't tolerate laziness. Under his guidance, I learned how to landscape, from mowing lawns to basic tree trimming. Every day was physically exhausting, but it gave me a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in a long time. Each paycheck was a step forward, a reminder that I could rebuild my life. Despite the challenges, I decided to enroll in community college. The local library became my sanctuary, where I could study and escape from the harshness of my reality. I chose courses in business management and accounting, hoping to gain practical skills that would open doors to a more stable future. "You're here a lot," commented Jenna, a librarian who had noticed me and the ever-growing stack of textbooks I carried. "Yeah, just trying to make the best of a bad situation," I admitted one evening as I checked out a book on financial principles. Jenna gave me a sympathetic nod. "If you ever need help finding resources, let me know. We're here to help." Her kindness, though small, was a reminder that not everyone was quick to judge without knowing the full story. As months turned into a year, my life slowly started to rebuild itself. I moved from sleeping in cafes to renting a small room in a shared house. It wasn't much, but it was a roof over my head, a far cry from where I had been. My roommates, mostly students and young professionals, kept to themselves, which suited me just fine. But despite my progress, the pain of my family's betrayal still lingered, but the searing pain of my family's betrayal had dulled over the years, becoming a persistent ache rather than the sharp sting it once was. I threw myself into my courses, my job, and the small victories of daily survival. Each passing day, I grew a bit more independent, a little more resilient. The streets had taught me more than just how to survive. They had shown me the value of my own strength, the kind that comes when you've lost everything and have to start from scratch. Despite all that had happened, I couldn't stop wondering why Sabrina had lied. What had she hoped to gain from my downfall? But as time went on, my old life seemed more like a distant memory, a chapter sealed off by the harsh realities of my new existence. Years slipped by, and I poured every ounce of myself into building a life I could be proud of, far removed from the shadows of that past betrayal. The day I graduated from community college was a milestone, not just because of the diploma in my hands, but for what it symbolized. I had gone from being homeless and disowned to standing on that stage with a degree in business management. I was alone in a crowd with no family to cheer me on, but the pride I felt was entirely my own. With my degree in hand, I didn't waste any time. I leveraged both my education and the experience I'd gained working with Mike to land a job at a small but fast-growing tech company looking for someone to manage their finances. The interview process was grueling, but every question thrown my way, I answered with the confidence of someone who had already lost everything. "Nathan, why should we hire you?" Mr. Daniels, the interviewer, asked with a probing look. "Because I'm not just looking for a job," I responded honestly. "I'm looking for a place where I can make a real impact. I've turned my life around through hard work and determination, and I bring that same energy to everything I do." Impressed by my determination and clear vision, Mr. Daniels offered me the job on the spot. The role was demanding, with long hours and constant learning, but it was exactly what I needed. It gave me a sense of purpose and a stable income, allowing me to finally live on my own terms. I moved into a better apartment, a space of my own, no longer just a room in a shared house. It was modestly furnished, but I chose each piece with care, determined to make it feel like home, something I hadn't truly had since being kicked out. Sometimes, after work, I'd visit the local coffee shop where I used to spend my nights when I was homeless. Sitting there, sipping a coffee in such a different context, I would reflect on how far I'd come. The bitterness of the past had faded, replaced by a focus on the present and future. "I remember you used to come in here late at night, always with a book or some papers," Liz, the barista, remarked one evening. "Yeah, those were tough times," I said, offering a small smile. "But they're behind me now. Thanks for giving me shelter back then." Her kindness had been a lifeline, and I was grateful for those small moments of warmth during my hardest days. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that those past hardships had shaped me into who I was. The intense anger I had once felt towards Sabrina and my family had lessened. Instead of harboring resentment, I felt pity. They had chosen to believe a lie without question, and in doing so, they had lost a son and a brother. My new life wasn't defined by their betrayal. It was defined by the strength, resilience, and independence I had cultivated in its wake. I had made peace with my past, not through forgiveness or forgetting, but by surpassing it. I had built a reality entirely my own, where trust was earned and respect was based on truth and integrity. Years later, when the past had faded into the backdrop of my daily life, Sabrina reappeared. It was a regular day at work, and I was buried in quarterly reports when a message from an unknown number popped up on my phone. "Nathan, it's Sabrina. I need to talk to you. It's important." The sight of her name sent a jolt through me, stirring long-buried emotions. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe the following evening. Seeing Sabrina after all these years felt surreal. She looked frail, her once vibrant energy dimmed by illness. The sight softened the edges of my resentment, but the memories of her betrayal still held strong. "Nathan, I don't even know where to begin," she started, her voice a whisper. "I'm not well. The doctors say I don't have much time." I felt a pang of sympathy, but my guard remained up. "What do you want from me, Sabrina?" I asked, my tone measured. I want to clear the air before it's too late. I lied about what happened that night. You never hurt me, she admitted, her eyes cast downward. I was jealous of the attention you got from our family. I thought if I push you away, I'd feel better. But I was wrong. Her words, the truth I had waited years to hear, didn't bring the relief I had once imagined. Why now, Sabrina? Why come clean after all these years? I asked, trying to steady the storm of emotions inside me. I've had a lot of time to think about my life and the people I've hurt. The guilt, it's been eating at me, and I can't face what's coming without trying to make things right. I'm truly sorry, Nathan, she said, her voice breaking, a tear slipping down her cheek. Her apology, as sincere as it might have been, couldn't undo the years of hardship her lies had caused. You want forgiveness, I said, not asking but stating, searching her eyes for clarity. Yes, she whispered. If you can ever find it in your heart. I understand if you can't. I just needed you to know the truth. The cafe around us seemed to fade into the background as I considered her words. Here she was, once as close as a sister, now a stranger bound only by the shared history of betrayal. I spent years rebuilding my life because of your lie, Sabrina. You threw me to the wolves without a second thought. I set my voice steady despite the turmoil within. Now you want forgiveness at your convenience because you're facing the end. Where was your guilt when I was sleeping on park benches? When I was shunned by everyone we knew? My voice remained steady, even as years of anger simmered just beneath the surface. Sabrina's hand trembled as she reached across the table. I know I can't change the past, Nathan. All I can do is tell you I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. I pulled my hand back, refusing to close the distance between us. You're right, you can't change the past. And I can't change how I feel. Your actions shaped years of my life, Sabrina. Maybe one day I'll be able to forgive you, but today's not that day. I stood up, leaving her at the cafe with nothing but her apologies and regrets. Walking away, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness for the family ties that had been irrevocably damaged, and relief that I had finally faced the past on my terms. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was someone who had overcome. Sabrina's confession didn't change the path I had chosen. It only confirmed what I already knew, that moving forward, without her or the family who had so easily doubted me, was the right decision. My life, built on resilience and truth, had no room left for the shadows of deceit. After that meeting, my mind became a battlefield of conflicting emotions. The truth had finally been laid bare, but it didn't erase the scars from years of hardship. As I walked through the busy city streets that night, the faces around me blurred into insignificance. I was alone with my thoughts, reflecting on the journey that had forged me into the person I was. Days turned into weeks, and life settled back into its familiar routine. Sabrina's reappearance had threatened to disrupt the hard-won peace I'd established, but I remained steadfast, focusing on my work and the future I was still shaping. Then, one quiet evening as I was finishing up a project, my phone rang. The screen flashed a name I hadn't seen in years: Mom and Dad. My heart skipped a beat. It was the first call I'd received from them since they'd turned their backs on me. Hesitantly, I answered. Nathan, it's Mom. Her voice was softer than I remembered, hesitant. We heard about Sabrina. About what really happened. Your father and I. We're so sorry. The apology caught me off guard, though it felt hollow, too late to heal the deep rift their actions had caused. I appreciate the call, I replied, my voice neutral. But sorry doesn't change the past. We know, son, she said, a tremble in her voice. We just hope one day you can forgive us. We'd love to see you, to talk about everything. I'll think about it, was all I could manage, not ready to make any promises. We ended the call soon after, and I sat there staring at the phone, feeling the weight of the past in my hand. Not long after, I received another message, this time from an aunt. Sabrina had passed away. She'd gone quietly, her battle with illness finally over. I felt a confusing mix of relief and unresolved anger. A part of me had imagined something more, some moment of closure, but life rarely grants us the endings we expect. As I reflected on Sabrina's passing and the path my life had taken, I realized that some wounds run too deep to ever fully heal. The betrayal from my family had taught me a harsh but important lesson. Trust, once broken, can never truly be restored. My life had moved forward, far from those dark times, and I had built something real, something based on my own strength and integrity. I was respected and valued not because of my family name, but because of the person I had become. As I continued my journey, I knew the rift between my parents and me might never fully heal. It was a consequence of their choices, a sad testament to the lasting damage of betrayal and rash judgments. That night, in the quiet solitude of my apartment, I contemplated the idea of fate. It seemed as though life had dealt me a cruel hand, but also a fair one. I had lost much, but I had gained something even more valuable: strength and self-reliance. The chapter of family and betrayal was now closed, sealed by Sabrina's passing and the stark revelation of my parents' remorse. What lay ahead was a future that I would shape with the hard-earned lessons of those painful, transformative years. As I turned off the lights and prepared for bed, a sense of calm washed over me. My story wasn't one of simple forgiveness or picture-perfect endings. It was about survival, about rebuilding myself from the ashes of betrayal. And in that survival, I found victory, not just over those who had wronged me, but over the fate that had tried to define me. Now that we've reached the end of Nathan's story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe that some actions are too destructive to ever forgive, even when the person who wronged you is truly remorseful? Share your views in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking tales. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to life.